The whole crypto market is dropping and every man and his dog is saying that we're going into a bear market, but is it true? Like, it doesn't even feel like we've had a bull market and yet everybody is already calling for the bear market. But that happens all the time, every single time the price of Bitcoin drops.
Excuse me, sir, are we going into a bear market?
No.
But, sir, the man on the internet told me that we were going into a bear market.
Which man?
All of them, sir. They're all saying it's bear market.
I'm being completely honest with you. I don't see it at all. There isn't. I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff in this video today, and it's not going to line up with a bear market theory at all. And if you want to win $10,000, drop a like on this video and leave a comment in the comment section below saying whether you're bullish or bearish. And if this video, because none of them ever hit 500 likes, but if this video can get 500 likes, I'll give away $10,000 to somebody that leaves a comment. Drop a like, leave a comment, and let's crack up. Because prices are dropping today, and I find myself in quite a small short position here on the price of Ethereum. Nothing crazy, not a big fan of shorting, don't feel like it has any kind of positive impact on the market, but equally it's always good to hedge your bets a little bit. And if you are in a long position, as I'm going to show you in a second, there are some very big traders out there that are covering off their long positions with short positions, which indicates to me that people don't want to sell their longs, but equally they're not massively confident in a big bounce. Like if you look at the crypto fear and greed index right now, currently it's reading 44. We're in a stage of fear. Yesterday again was 44, the day before was, well, last week was 52, and the month before was 48. So we appear to be dropping in confidence in crypto right now. One thing that isn't dropping, and it makes me very pleased because I'm now up about £400,000 on this since I made the call about a month ago. There is an absolutely crazy amount of confidence in this coin, and it will continue to rise because of the way the token is structured. This is going to perform like Asta, and it's going to pop. But we'll get onto that later on in the video because the market isn't popping right now, and we need to assess why that is. Like, this is the Bitcoin 3-hour chart. You can see the moving average coming to the downside, and I kind of expect, to be honest, we will at some point loop back around and it's going to be a very aggressive bounce. The thing that fills me with a mild amount of fear is just where these down levels sit. Like if we go over here to a 4-hour chart and we look at it on this time frame here, realistically we could hit the lower level of support down here at $100,000 if we were to lose $110,000 on Bitcoin, which is currently sat on a final level of support here. So it's not out of the question that Bitcoin could drop 10%. If it were to drop 10%, I expect it would be a move that would be like that. We would recover very, very quickly, and it would be more of a liquidity grab down at these levels. Because don't forget, on Bitcoin right now, on the liquidation heat map down at $107,000, there is a ton of liquidations down there. And if we look at the incredibly long-term month heat map, you can see down all the way down to $100,000. There's so many liquidations that could happen. But the question is it a trap? Well, I mean, currently, if we look at the long to short ratio, in the past 24 hours, there's been $37 billion in longs and $37 billion in shorts. So both are averaging out pretty much the same. If we go over to HYPERLIQUID right now, 60% of traders on HYPERLIQUID are long. And then if we look at some of the all-time record holders for the highest amount of profit on HYPERLIQUID, we can see this guy here has got perps equity of $15 million, but he's got an all-time P&L of $54 million, and he's currently sitting about $1 million profit, but he's holding short positions on XRP, on SUI, on Hype, on Link, on Dogecoin, but he's got some long positions as well. It's a bit of a mixed portfolio, but for the most part, this guy who's got this all-time incredible P&L right now is short the markets. And when I talk about big traders hedging their positions, this is another guy that's predominantly long on all the markets. You can see he's long on ENA, long on Pump, long on WLD, long on ETH5, but he's got a $25 million Ethereum short position, which is covering off any potential losses that could happen on these other trades. So that tells me there's a mild amount of fear within these bulls right now. And we look at an all-time bull here, somebody that's long on all of the markets. Well, this guy is having a terrible time of it because he's down $12.5 million on his most recent trades. His all-time P&L is plus 24 million right now, but it peaked at 38 million. The guy's down 12 million from his all-time high in just about a week, to be honest. Not even a week, in about 24 hours. He's lost $12 million in 24 hours. And we have this other account here with an all-time P&L of $26 million. And this guy, again, is short everything. These big, rich traders on HYPERLIQUID right now are short everything. And I've saved the best to last here because this is the most brutal downfall of all of them. This guy had a $42 million profit. He's currently sat in an $11 million profit, and he lost all of that in the span of 3 days. He was in a $7 million loss, and now he's in a $34 million. $34 million down in a week. And this guy, I'm watching this account because I think this guy's going to get liquidated. So I think at the point that this guy gets liquidated is the point when the market starts turning around. Now, he's currently long on pump and he's long on Ethereum. And if his pump orders were to get liquidated, that would probably on its own cause a 20% flash crash in the price. So what I'm thinking is basically, and this is why I would never trade on Hyperliquid. It's why when you ask me which exchange you should trade on, check out BLOFIN. You'll find a link for it in the video description and it'll give you a massive fee discount. You get some nice deposit bonuses, but fee discount is so much more important because it's actually real cash that you're saving. But if you put your orders publicly, like this guy is doing on Hyperliquid, that makes him a target, because if you want to get an order filled on a price of something, you can see that all you need to do is pressure the price past this guy's liquidation point or towards his liquidation point. And because he's trading on cross leverage, all he needs is the price of Ethereum to drop down to about 3,900. And then suddenly he's barely got any money left in his account and he'll be approaching a collapse all the way down to zero or even below zero, because his account equity right now is $17 million. His all-time P&L is $11.7 million now. And that would mean that if he lost this whole amount of money here, he would be in a $7 million or $6 million loss. So that's why we don't trade on these decentralized futures, because they are so open to manipulation by people that can see your trades. The case that all these people make for using these decentralized futures is, oh, it's more secure, but it's not. Liquidity pools get hacked all the time. I would always much rather use a centralized exchange when it comes to derivative trade. That's beside the point. The point that I'm trying to show you here is you can see all these people's orders and they're all at massive risk ratios right now. And it's quite concerning because this guy with $17 million down has got $146 million worth of leverage at 8.25x leverage. And he's only like a 3 or 4% move away from losing the whole amount of the account. And generally when you see these collapses, they happen, which is why it's of great concern if the price of Ethereum were to keep dropping down today. I mean, he would definitely get wrecked. Now, I'm in this short position, but it is only a small short position. If you look over at the price of Bitcoin, we already discussed the fact that that is potentially what could happen. But equally, we tend to drop down in the mornings UK time and then pump as soon as the US market opens for the rest of the day. We've been doing that recently, so the question is, are we going to do the same again today? I'm going to start by looking at Ethereum here. Ethereum hasn't retested the low levels of support, and given that we've broken through this level of support here at 4,131, it seems pretty likely that we get all the way down to $3,900 and at least put some pressure on these people that are completely over leveraged in the market right now with a downside retest of this, which would ultimately be a bullish thing in the long term. I'm not saying that I'm bearish. What I'm saying is an element of caution, like it's been required for the past few days, is still required, because we could end up with a minus 10% day here and then the next day is fully recovered. You just don't want to have that much money down in the market during these periods of volatility because you might lose it. By all means, taking a long at these levels is a sensible idea. If you're using less than 5x leverage on Ethereum, you will probably be fine, because even if it were to drop down 10%, you wouldn't lose everything. But it's when you start going into like the 8s, the 10s, and suddenly a small move can really wipe you out. So I'm hoping for a bounce here, because naturally the short position that I'm in, I don't really care about. It's 55 ETH at the end of the day. It's nothing. I'd much rather the market bounce because my portfolio will go up a lot more. This is more so just a tiny little hedge in case we do drop down to make myself feel a little bit better about the situation. And as I say, check out BLOFIN. You'll find a link for BLOFIN in today's video description, and you'll get amazing fee discounts if you use BLOFIN on the link in the video description. You can use it in the UK, US, Europe, anywhere, 0 KYC and very little deposit restriction. And one thing we've not discussed today yet is Solana, which came down and retested its key level of support down here at $203. The key range of liquidity that we've been discussing for the past few days, we came down and retested, and currently we're having a small bounce off of it. And hopefully that bounce continues, and hopefully it's an amazing time to go long. The only thing I'd say here is 194 kind of looks attractive, being that it is a long-term level of support that we've tested here, we've tested it here, and we've not tested it here yet. It would be pretty weird if we didn't test it, so we'd probably do one little bit of a run-up before crushing it down on Friday maybe. But pretty sure that like very soon we're going to have a very aggressive pump to the upside, and when that aggressive pump to the upside comes, it won't matter if you bought a 203, 204, 205, because the price is going to be back at 260, 270. So what I'm saying here is buying spot is sensible. Buying the dip is always sensible. We're in a bull market and nothing's changed. And I'm going to prove that to you with today's crypto news. And if that sounds interesting, drop a like on the video so we can at least get 500 likes. Because all I wanted, I've been asking to give away 10k to somebody for ages now. But anyway, let me tell you how bullish the market is. Ethereum dips below $4,000. It has been mid macro jitters and slowing ETF inflows. But in contrast to that, Ethereum supply on exchanges hits a 9-year low amid Wall Street glow up. Because when we look at the current amount of Ethereum on exchanges, at the start of 2022, there's 28 million Ethereum available on exchanges. Right now, there is 16.3 million Ethereum available on exchanges and continually dropping at quite an accelerating pace. When you see a statistic like this, it means that there's going to be a supply squeeze, and a supply squeeze generally results in a massive increase in price. And the reason why price isn't increasing at the moment is because it's being pushed down by futures volume. These massive blow-ups that we see in the market so consistently, they're caused by over-leveraged traders trading 10x or more, and it's ultimately what's holding the price back, because if we didn't have futures, just the spot volume on its own would push the price so much higher. Now, back to the news here. Senator Warren is calling for Trump to have an ethics probe on him with his crypto dealings, saying that it's unethical, and that's part of the reason why the market has been declining this past 24 hours. If an ethics probe happens, you can guarantee he'll be calming down on the whole crypto front. At the same time, he's king of America right now, and you can't touch him, so good luck. Probably not going to happen. I think, to be honest, it needs to happen, but it probably won't happen. I think there's a small amount of irony here that Trump is proposing that Congress has no good excuse to trade stocks. Meanwhile, at the same time, he's making a bunch of crypto projects, launching meme coins and all this other stuff. But by 2028, American senators and stuff won't be able to trade stocks anymore. Now, another interesting piece of news is METAPLANET, which is one of these companies like MicroStrategy, whose stock price has declined 40% in the past month, has been given a bullish outlook by a company called Benchmark. Now, this is pretty interesting because with these strategy companies, every single one of this month has been doing bad. And I think that's a bit of a buy signal, because I think that like interest in the stock market recently has dropped off a little bit on the crypto side. But when interest drops off, you buy it, and then when interest comes back, you sell it. Speaking of somebody selling a business here, UPBIT, which is a giant Korean exchange, the biggest in South Korea, is now going through a merger. And something that we're quite commonly seeing now is venture capital, traditional finance, is really starting to invest heavily in the crypto space, which is creating a lot of legitimacy in the crypto space, and ultimately will yield higher prices in the crypto industry in general, but only for the more legitimate asset classes. And that's probably why we've not seen the kind of 1000x altcoin season that we've seen in previous bull markets, because all of that institutional money is flowing towards these massive coins. Another thing that we've been seeing recently is these big banks getting more and more involved, with Morgan Stanley expanding its crypto options here with its company called E-Trade, adding options on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Morgan Stanley are going to facilitate trading in these assets, which again will add more institutional volume to crypto. More bullish news here being that market maker GSR is filing for an ETF to track crypto treasury firms. This is an ETF of an ETF of an ETF. It's kind of like Inception in a way, because these MicroStrategy type companies take out a bunch of loans and buys Bitcoin, and then this guy takes out a bunch of loans, makes an ETF, and then buys a bunch of stock in a companies that have got a bunch of loans that have then bought Bitcoin. So it's like a proxy of a proxy, but maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, or a Ponzi of a Ponzi, maybe you might want to say. But there's one thing we need to keep an eye on today, and that is the US jobs data that is dropping today. Now, that could have a massive impact on the market that creates a straight line in either direction. I'm expecting a bullish move to the upside, so let's go back to the charts. Now, there's two scenarios here. We've already discussed the downside scenario, but what does the upside scenario look like? Well, it looks like this. If we get a positive jobs report today and everything comes in pretty good, we'll probably see a bounce back up here straight to about $113,500, about a 2.5% bounce, at which point small rejection followed by a continuation of the breakout and start trading back above this moving average that you can see here. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, and ultimately all we need is a little bit of good news in the market right now, and the prices will start going back up again. We've been a bit good news starved for the past few weeks now, and that's one of the reasons why prices recently have been tumbling. But that's what we're looking for, a break of this $13,500 level on Bitcoin. When it comes to Ethereum, what we're looking for in Ethereum, again, it's very similar. We've got a very long-term level of resistance that we need to break above here. It was support, it's now resistance. It's $4,150 that we need to break. Currently trading at $4,028. Ethereum has been down today, but it is starting the bounce, and it depends on how you plot these lines as to whether this lines up perfectly or not. We should really, in theory, if we're to do everything correctly, come down and tap this $3,900 level. But it's equally just as likely that we bounce upwards today on good news, dump down tomorrow on bad news, then spend the entire weekend bouncing back to the upside, then with another rejection to the downside, followed by a giant pump. Either way, I think all scenarios lead to this. So my thought on the market right now is it doesn't matter what button you press, as long as it's green with not a lot of leverage, because you need to be able to survive a drop down to this level down here around $3,500. And if you can survive a drop down to $3,500, a 14% drop down, which would basically mean don't use more than 5x leverage, and you'll be absolutely fine in this market to hold on to a long-term position. If you want to do that, check out BLOFIN. You'll find a link for it in today's video description that'll give you a great fee discount, making it cheaper to trade on than any of the current exchanges that you use. And when it comes to Solana, it's a very similar story to the other two. We, in theory, should come back up and retest this level here at 216 before a further rejection to the downside, maybe coming down to 196, or if we were to fail at this level right here, we could potentially make it all the way down to 168 in some kind of terrible event, which would ultimately lead to a massive pump to the upside. Any kind of big downside move, I will buy with leverage on leverage on leverage. I will take loans. I'll do everything I can to get as much money. If we see it sold down at 168, I'm putting in everything I've got into Solana, because at those prices, I don't believe in a bear market right now. I believe that everything institutionally wise is very bullish. And if we were to see some kind of flash crash down, it would only be caused by over leverage in the markets, of which there is a massive leverage buildup right now in the markets. And it's something that I'm very aware of. I already showed you the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, but let me show you the one for Ethereum. You see, the thing for Ethereum is if we look down here at 3,000 and above, there's still a bunch of leverage that's built up in this range here. There's a bunch of leverage that's built up in this range up here. But this is an incredibly long-term chart that is giving us so much data here. And there's no reason why we couldn't even flash crash back down to $2,000. If we start one of these over-leveraged flash crashes, like what we've seen earlier in the year, if you remember, when ETH dropped down to $1,600 in just like a few hours, these happen not because people are bearish, but because there is so much leverage buildup. And we're in one of these scenarios where I kind of believe that there is quite a lot of leverage buildup. The reason I believe this is look at how much open interest there is right now on Solana, being $7.69 billion. And this is open interest, the only open interest that's reported. There's a lot more that goes unreported, I promise you. Bitcoin open interest hasn't had a significant drop down in ages and is currently sat at $39 billion. There's just so much money built up in these markets. It is like a bit of a ticking time bomb unless you get a bounce. And you need your bounce to be quite aggressive, and hopefully this trade dips into a loss and I close it. I'd love a scenario like that because I'll just jump straight back into a long position. Ultimately, I am not a bear right now. I'm just hedging myself a little. But on that note, what do you think is going to happen in the crypto markets? Are you bullish or bearish? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate that. I hope this video has been useful to you. Drop a like on it. Let's get 500 likes. Let me give $10,000 to somebody. And don't forget to subscribe with those channel notifications turned on. I'll see you on a stream soon. Have a great day. Goodbye.